Oh, you look fabulous.
No, you look fabulous.
No, you look fabulous.
Okay, maybe.
Look at that guy. Mwah. Thank you all for coming. This is my most recent novel. It came out last fall. I didn't really plan it for this party, but it is somewhat pink. It is about a cannibal who's having various sort of ethical issues about his cannibalism. He still believes himself to be a fabulous person and a fundamental force for good, as I'm sure we all do. And I'm just going to read you a little section of it. He's talking to a friend of his, a friend who's tied up in the bottom of his yacht, whose name is Louis. So if I'm referring to Louis, you can picture that being the guy who's there listening to the madman speak about issues of ethics, cuisine, history, various things. This is just a little section, and this is a historical section. Cannibals have always existed, Louis, and we always will. In nature, cannibalism is as regular as famine. Pigs, fish, worms, and people, when pushed to starvation's edge, they will take steps. It's the oldest story, garbled as it may be. Picture, if you can, the first woman. Some calamity has forced her entire gangly, hairless herbivore clan down out of their family tree and across the wide African plains on freshly evolved legs tuned for endurance. For days and for weeks she runs, in light and in darkness, on land and through water, separated from her tribe, pursued by who knows what prehistoric predators, until one day she crosses over into a new world and finds herself alone in a landscape unlike any her race has ever known. Until this day, she has only ever gathered and sprinted, eaten and ran, subsiding on the tough and infrequent morsels of the dry savanna. But now she has stumbled across a garden, one of unparalleled beauty and sustenance. Call her Eve. She has the seed-crushing molars of a herbivore, sensitive tongue for sorting out tiny inedibilities. And while she's perhaps enjoyed a crispy locust or a paste of termite grubs upon her meals of dusty roots and bitter leaves, she's not what you and I would call a gourmet. Not yet. Hunger has always been her constant companion, food her absent friend. But today she is the first human to discover fruit. Individually wrapped snack packs of sugar and vitamins, positioned at eye level, dangling around her. Bananas and plantains, perhaps, or pomegranates, or apples, almost certainly apples. A few well-adapted megafauna might reach the higher fruit first, but here in this garden, nature has provided plenty for all. An end to hunger. Is that where mankind's story begins? On the first day that everyone was fed and sheltered and needed only to digest and to be happy and to think. Our Eve, she must think it's a dream. Truly, if miracles can occur, this was the first. She would stay, of course, as long as she could. She would climb every tree, taste everything the animals tasted, and other things besides. She would master this new landscape and dream of the day when others of her kind would arrive to share it. Ah, poor young Eve. There's so little she knows about the world. What would she make of the growing lump in her belly? This presence that seems to push and poke from inside. Why, she must have been knocked up back in Africa. By a cousin or brother, perhaps, before the tribe was scattered. But what does lonely Eve know of these things? She ran, she found this place, she ate the fruit, and now something has taken root inside of her. Eve is strong, close to nature. Alone behind some shrub, she bravely bears her child, and he lives. Let's call him Adam. Shall we? Now there are two, one sprung from the ribs of the other. Eve looks at this second little miracle, all hungry and pleading. It's made of me, she realizes. People are made of people. And perhaps she tries to share her apples, her grapefruit, oranges, lemons, but the little offspring only wants one thing. Eve's the clever girl, though unschooled. She figures it out. Soon the baby is sleeping fitfully, and Eve ponders this new mystery, this latest strangeness. He's eating me. The baby eats the mother, drinks her like a bottle. And now, hunger, that old passenger briefly forgotten, returns to visit. Adam is ravenous. Eve is famished. She eats for two now. Perhaps she begins to see the limits of her windfall. Perhaps she eats the very last apple of the season. And then the temperate weather shifts, and the storms come, and the ripe things fall and rot, and fortunes change. She looks up the trees, she climbs to the top of them with crying Adam on her back, seeking a sign, another miracle. Rain comes. An icy wind. Leaves turn black and cover the ground with slime. This is her first winter. She's the first human ever to winter this far north. Creation is a fickle friend, now giving, now taking. And as much as she searches all outdoors for assistance, the only voice she hears comes from inside herself. Old, familiar hunger, curling through her belly, simmering and squeezing and nipping at her heart. Hunger is the insistent stomach, the needy intestines, the serpent coiled within, the reptile that came before the mammal grew up around it. From the reptile mind at the base of the brain, hunger whispers to Eve. She's cold. She's hungry. The baby is crying, and there's nothing at all left to eat. Nor is Eve the only hungry one. At night, there are footsteps below the sleeping tree. Hungry, roaming animals, one by one, wander through the fallow garden, just as cold, just as desperate, just as deserted by nature, but armed with sharp canines and claws. They smell her, Louis. They don't know what she is, but she smells delicious. And they too have snakes inside of them, gnawing and demanding. While little Adam cries and cries and cries. Eve says, just yesterday I had everything, and now it's all gone. What will I do? Where will I go? Shall I run again? Run until the beasts of the night take me down and eat me? Eat my child? Excuse me, says the serpent. I couldn't help overhearing. What was that last bit, those last 3 words you said? Shut up, snake, says Eve. I'm nothing for you. There's no food here. Nothing left to eat. And the serpent says, oh, but there is still one thing. Something that's made of you. Something that was in your belly once and could be again. Something that's never had any qualms about nibbling at you. Something that makes an awful racket day and night. Something that, given your current fortunes, you might do better without. You can always make another one, the serpent says. And doesn't he smell sweet? Like ripe strawberries. Isn't he so soft and tender you could just chew him to pieces? So hard to keep alive. So easy to kill. Eat the baby, Eve. Put him back in your belly and wait for springtime. And you know, it's just not fair. 10,000 years later, this ancient story is garbled in every way, but the one thing that never shifts is the blame. Eve should never have listened to that snake, they say. She should have just said no. She should have prayed for a miracle. And that is our official policy on hunger worldwide to this day. Yes, it's regrettable that starvation makes you insanely desperate, but for God's sake, don't get all worked up about it. Don't do anything rash, like looting the grocer, or burglarizing the banks, or preparing free meals for the destitute and homeless without first obtaining a health permit, and a parade permit, and a variance. Instead, it might help to pray to God for forgiveness. He's clearly pissed off at you. But it's nothing to do with us, insist the global fat and the global smug. It's a matter of history, sin, market forces, those sorts of things. Please return to your favelas and quit eating your babies. Eve survived that winter and had other babies, but her reputation was done for. Every other bipedal, hairless hominid who eventually caught up with her in that agricultural wonderland was quick to judge on a full stomach the things she did on an empty one. So she left, and others arrived, and they too were ambushed by the sudden onset of this new thing called winter, and they too were both corrupted and saved by that useful forbidden knowledge. When times are tough, people are made of people. Thank you.